I mean, we're hoping to be an 8-figure brand within 3 years. That's the goal.
All right, we're back with a brand new video, and I've got a very exciting one for you today because in today's video, I'm going to be interviewing one of my students, Nick. Now, Nick's story is very interesting. Before he met me, before jumping on my mentorship, he was operating as a freelancer, offering Facebook ads to a bunch of different clients, but working as a solo entrepreneur. Now, he jumped on my mentorship to make the transition to being an agency owner, and in just a few short months, he was able to get into my 10K club, which are all the students that have gone from 0 to 10K plus with their agency in record-breaking time. We're literally talking about 3 to 5 months in most cases, and scale well past the 10K a month mark. So we're going to be talking about that transition that he made from being a freelancer to being an agency owner and scaling well past the 10K a month mark. But we're also going to be talking about what he's doing right now. Because one of the benefits that I talk about in my channel of building an e-com agency is the fact that you can actually go from being an agency owner to then going into starting your own e-com brands, right? Because you've done that for a myriad of different clients for the past few months and years, right? And so that is the position that he's currently at. He's still running his e-com agency, crushing it, but now he's adding more fuel to his income and his impact, and he's going to be starting his own e-com brand. So I'm very excited to talk about that transition as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's go right into it.
Let me see.
Hello.
Okay.
I'll leave that here, bro.
I'm recording now, so
Cool.
it's all good.
But yeah, man, how you been?
Pretty good, man. Been very busy working on this ecom project. It's like,
You gotta tell me about it.
yeah, man. This is like, I think honestly, my whole dream was to start like my own branded ecom stuff,
Mm.
and like actually like build up something of value, something where you have your own inventory, your own brand, something
Yeah.
like where you put years of work in, and actually building something, so it's what we're right now in the starting phases, and it's been pretty fun already, so just
So you were saying, how long have you been essentially at this? What stage are you currently at?
so right, I think it was like beginning of March where I decided that this was like what I wanted to do. So I have actually a business partner in the UK, guy I worked with in my agency. Actually, he was like one of my media buyers, and he was like, "Hey man, why don't we start like an ecom brand together?" So that's kind of like what we started doing. We actually started like experimenting with drop shipping, and just realized that that was kind of like a business model that neither of us really enjoyed doing, and not very sustainable. And we're like, why are we putting all this effort into this if we might as well just invest all the money that we've earned through media buying, through agency and stuff, and invest that in a brand for ourselves. So we just kind of like joined forces, and I think the beginning of March, or I think actually it was probably the end of March, where we just decided like, okay, this is something we're gonna do. Didn't have any idea like which niche or anything like that. All we knew was like we wanted to start something. So just brainstormed, and slowly started getting some ideas of like which niche we could tap into. And now we're kind of settled on that. We're just making sure that this is like really what we want to commit to, the specific niche, and talking to suppliers, those types of things. So working out like pre-launch strategies. So it's pretty cool.
That's cool, man. So this guy, this media buyer, right? This partner of yours, was that the guy you were that you hired like when we're doing the mentorship, like the guy you were telling me about?
No, that was another guy actually. So this was the guy before him. He was
Okay.
actually running like one account up until I think until September or something for me. So he was just doing one account. I always knew that his ambitions weren't like media buying. I always knew he wanted to build an e-com brand as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny how it like progresses this way. But yeah, man. So that's how it went.
Cool. And I mean, what has so you started this at beginning of March, right? What was like the strategy? So you guys like got crystal clear on the industry, the niche, or what was like the first like stepping stone?
Yeah, first it was more like, okay, what kind of business model do you want to tap into? Is it more of a subscription or like a one-off kind of thing,
Hmm.
high ticket or a bit more low ticket, but then like having people repurchase over and over again. So that was kind of the first step, kind of establishing that. And I think we were both set on, we want to build something where people buy multiples of, right?
Hmm.
So once we knew that, there was like a few niches where we both had experience. So we were looking into skincare,
Okay.
for example, and then another one was supplements. So
Okay.
that
And
was the first stage.
you went with, well, I mean, are you want to share or?
Yeah, I mean, like I can't share like the specific
Yeah,
like
of course.
niche
Yeah.
we're tapping into, but it
Okay.
is in the supplement space.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Cool.
I understand you're doing something similar, right?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it is in that industry, that niche as well. So that's cool, man.
But it's top secret, right?
For now, yeah, but I'm literally documenting the whole journey on my YouTube. Yeah, I'm putting out a series like building a 100 million ecom brand. So far we've got like episode 1 out. But I mean the development is well underway. Like we just put through the order, should be like arriving in 6-8 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah, really cool, man. Like, so we're pretty much on the same like stage right now.
Yeah, it is. Literally, man. And that's why, I talk about this quite a bit on the channel. The fact that like, and even in the mentor program, like one of the great things about an ecom agency is the fact that like you progress as an entrepreneur, and it just lends itself so great to other, business models, right? It's just a natural progression towards that, like building your own ecom brands, if that's what you want to do, right? Because before building your ecom brand, you were like super, you were super honed in what I call the kind of like the ecomite stage, where like you were building this kind of incubator, right, for ecom brands.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Like, I think having the agency gave me a lot of like, first of all, you work with like so many different brands, right? So you have all these brands in all these different niches. Like, they couldn't be any more different from each other. So you kind of start seeing patterns and you start understanding like what these brands are doing really well and also what they're really not doing very well. So
Mm.
you kind of start to identify, okay, this is like some trends I'm seeing. This works
Mm.
really well for this brand, but this doesn't work well for that brand. And
Yeah.
from there, you can kind of start thinking, okay, what would I do myself? How would I improve
Mm.
that? How would I make that better?
Yeah. And it's so unconscious. I don't know if this is the case for you, but like you're not like taking notes like, oh, this founder is doing this wrong, right? But it's just so unconscious. Like it almost, it's just this all this knowledge that they transfer onto you just by working with them, right? Have you felt that it's like super unconscious, or you were actively like looking at things that they could be doing better?
I would say both. On a very strategical level, like you see some strategic things that are like fundamentally wrong with the business. Maybe
Mm.
their margins aren't. Uh, they have very tight margins, for example, which makes it very hard to scale if they're using paid traffic. So these types of strategic things, like you definitely notice.
Yeah.
Just going through the numbers, you're like, okay, there's no way that this business model could work at scale.
Yeah.
For example. And then there's other things where it's like the intangible stuff, where it's like the mindset of the business owner, how they approach their own brand. Are they like more of a short-term thinker or a long-term thinker? You just kind
Mm.
of start to adapt those mindsets as well, or notice those small
Okay.
things. Um, yeah.
If you were to like look back, right? Is there any specific founder, or any, you don't have to mention names, right? It's just any brand specific founder, any lesson that you vividly remember learning from your journey as an ecom agency owner?
Oh, that's a really good question. um, One thing I noticed, and I'm not thinking of a specific founder, but more of like a general ecom building mindset, is that you have the difference between like a founder that just only cares about sales and being as profitable as possible all the time, and the founder that's like, maybe we'll break even for a couple months if that
Mm.
means that we're able to acquire a whole bunch of customers that we can upsell to later and build like lifetime value over a long period of time, start building brand, you know, really focus
Yeah.
on the branding, um, really building something for the long term. And I think if you want to build something sustainable, that's the kind of mindset you have to have. Like, okay, maybe we're not going to make money right now, but
Yeah.
if that means we're going to be profitable later down the road, that's fine too.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's a pattern that I've seen with e-com founders as well, is the fact that, like, obviously you got to have a good balance, right? You got to pay the bills, right? And you got to pay your team and all that stuff. But the ones that think more long term, the ones that think, hey, let's actually build brand as we make money and as we scale the brand. Like those are the ones that win, right? Whether it's through organic content or building a bit of a community, right? Or et cetera, et cetera. Like those are the brands that win at the end. Are there any ways that, like, you have, when it comes to building brand, are there any ways that, like, stand out to you as the go-to methods? Or yeah, what would you say when it comes to building brand? What are some of the keys as an ecom brand?
I mean, there's so many things, right, that make a good e-commerce brand.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a few like strategical slash, yeah, I would say strategical things that stand out. One of them is having good margins, right? So if the client has like 60% profit margins, 70, the higher the profit margins, the more you're able to sustain at scale, and also the more you're able to spend to acquire a customer.
Yep.
So that's number one. And I always say, like, the one who's able to spend most acquiring a customer usually wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're able to spend, say, $70 to acquire a customer, and your competitor's only able to spend 40, you're going to be able to outcompete them on any platform, really. So that's number one. Build a good brand. I would say those fundamentals really important. Is it something that is a one-off purchase, or something you can purchase frequently? So can you increase lifetime value over a period of time? Then you can talk about upsells, or a product that is perishable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a product that you can use for a month and then it finishes and you buy a new one. I think that's a really good way to sustain a brand. Another one is, say, more intangible, which is like building a community around your brand. So I noticed the ones that did really well, they had Facebook groups, like discussing the topic, whatever the brand was. For example, we had a food client and they had like a little community about dieting, etc. And you really build those strong loyal followers that are going to promote your brand like crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar kind of vibes on Instagram, for example. Loyal following, always commenting, engaging. So those things are really important, I think. What else? I find that also from a marketing side, it's like the brands that do really well, they're always multi-channel. So they're not only relying on Facebook for results, because the reality is, like, with the whole iOS thing, Facebook's constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a big mess. 1 week and then the next week you're profitable again. So it's a roller coaster ride for these channels. And the ones that really succeed, they're doing influencer marketing, they're doing Facebook, they're doing email, maybe Snapchat, Pinterest, all at once, and Google Ads. And they're combining all that to, really be multi-channel.
In terms of now your journey, right, as starting the ecom brand, what would you say have been like the biggest roadblocks or the most challenging things coming from being making that transition essentially?
So the hardest things, making the transition. It's like starting from scratch again, so it's like when I decided I wanted to do this, it was like looking up on a mountain, and
Did you cut you basically like stopped cold turkey, like the ecom agency?
Yeah, I mean, I still have some clients, so
Okay.
that's still like, I'm still relying on that in terms of cash flow, but it's not completely cold turkey. But at the same time, it's like you are starting something new that could potentially be much bigger. And it's very daunting to just see like the work you have to do. So I think I'm still trying to overcome a lot of those things. But what I've learned is that it's literally just like you could either look up and see how high the mountain is, or you could just look down and just take it step by step and just
Yeah, for
keep
sure.
walking, and as long as you keep doing that, I think at some point you'll be at the top and you'll be like, oh wow, I got here, nice.
Mm. Mm.
Instead of like being like, oh my god, it's so far away. It's
Yeah, yeah. And I remember we were talking once about like the entrepreneurial journey, right? And how like it starts from even the little things, right? Like from like because I believe you started like reading and all that stuff when you were like how young? Remember that conversation we had, like even from like the pickup lessons and the mindset and all that stuff, like how that translates into business, because at the end of the day, like you just have to be a relentless person, right? When it comes to that type of building a business.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think a lot of the work that you have to do is personal work, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's so much internal stuff that you have to build up. You have to build up that internal confidence, that resilience, that willingness to learn. There's so many things, right? That if you don't work on those and you kind of ignore those, and then you decide to build a business, it can be very, very difficult. So yeah, I think like what you said, like a lot of that time when I was younger was spent like kind of working on myself, building more confidence.
Mm.
So then like now it's not as daunting, and you kind of have that resilience, because I think one thing really that's really important is having resilience, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're gonna fail inevitably, and sometimes you just gotta put your head down and keep going and not care too much. But I think it's very easy to take those failures very personally and
Yeah.
take them as big rejections, but reality, you're just learning.
Mm-hmm. What was there a time during your agency journey when you just had to use that resilience? Like, what was a really, maybe you didn't have one, right? But I'm sure you did. What was a really tough moment where you were like, damn, like, I maybe scaled to this amount, right? And now I'm back to square one, or I backtracked a little bit, and I gotta step things up again.
Yeah, I think it was actually before we met, I think it was last March or something, right? A year ago. I think at that point I've reached out to so many clients, and sent so many looms, and just nothing was really
Mm.
working. And at that point I was like faced with the decision. It's like, okay, do I invest in your help, or do I just completely quit? Because honestly, at that point it's like 50-50 right there.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I just decided to work with you, and you gave me that kind of like new energy, that new perspective of, okay, like, you can do this.
Mm.
Here's a system to do it. Just execute on that. And that's what I did. And, got my first client like within 3 weeks of
Yeah,
working together. So
literally, I do remember. Yeah, you telling me like it was like on the third week you had that first line.
yeah, and it was a great client. Honestly, it was like I think my best client, to be honest. They stayed on for a good 7-8 months, 6, 7, 8 months, something like this.
Damn.
Scaled their business like crazy. So like, yeah, that changed my whole perspective as well. Like, okay, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was also building my team, and just gaining that confidence overall. And I felt like that made me a bit more resilient as well.
Mm-hmm. You've gone through a lot of phases, and that's one of the things I love about your journey. Like, it's literally like spot on, ecom agency founder, like all the different stages you can tap into, right? Because when I first met you, back then, you were doing mostly freelancing, right? What what were some of the changes or the shifts you had to do to go from freelancing to being an agency owner? Like, what are the main differences between that type of business model and the agency model?
Yeah, freelancing, you're working very much inside the business, and as a business owner, I mean, that's the difference. You're a business owner, right? You're not
Mm.
actually doing the actual media buying or whatever technical thing it is that you're doing. You're looking at things from a more strategic perspective. So you're
Mm.
working on the business and not in the business. And the hardest thing is to let that go. Like, you think you know how to run Facebook ads, and yeah, sure, you have some experience in that, but when you hire a media buyer, you also have to let them do their thing, and respect
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that is really, really difficult in the beginning,
Yeah.
because you kind of have to trust them blindly to do their thing. Obviously, you have to hold them accountable as well, but at some point you have to let that go and let them do their thing. Otherwise, they're not going to succeed either.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big shift, because you go from doing very technical things to then doing very strategic things, I would say.
What are some of the things you looked for in that first hire? Because I remember us going through the hiring process, right? What are some things that, some of the traits, some of the things that you looked for in that first hire? Because it was a bit different to usually what I recommend, right? Because you were already experienced, right, with media buying, and so you were looking for a different type of person. Not so much, it wasn't so much the experience, right? But it was more about the hunger and the kind of the person that they could shape up to be. Can you walk us through some of the traits that you looked for in that first ever hire for your agency?
Yeah, so the guy I hired when I was with you, right? So this guy, he actually reached out to him on LinkedIn, and he happened to live in Holland. So he was like,
Okay.
hey, let's meet up, And at that point I didn't think of him as a very experienced. So I was like kind of disregarding that. I'm like, okay, well, if he's not that experienced, he's not going to be much of a value to the agency. But he was just pushing to hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this guy's actually serious about this, Like he's showing me this intent of, hey, look, I'm serious. I'm willing to meet up in person, like travel from whatever city he was at to meet me, hang out with me. And that's what he did. And we hung out, and I was like, okay, wow, this guy, maybe he's not the most experienced guy, but he's definitely hungry to learn. And I remember I was talking to you, and we were like in between, I think it was another candidate, and it was one of them was way more experienced, but seemed to be more, I don't know, less hungry, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was more hungry but less experienced. And I think at one point I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna go for this. The guy was more hungry, and honestly, he was the best media buyer I ever worked with, because he was just proactive about everything, putting in that extra work. I never needed to worry about anything because he would handle it. And he also learned a lot, like while working with me. And since I already knew a little bit of Facebook ads, I could guide him as well, and we could strategize together. And honestly, I didn't need to worry that much about the results either. So traits wise, yeah, someone that's, hungry, willing to grow, and you also need to provide them the opportunity to grow as well.
I always see that with very hungry people though. Like they learn quick, right? They grow very quickly. I mean, you were saying like what was kind of the environment that you provided for this person to be able to grow?
Yeah. So first of all, freedom to kind of do their own thing. So I didn't want to micromanage. I didn't want to tell them how to run Facebook ads. I tried to, it was like a challenge for myself to be more open-minded towards that as well, because I had a certain way of running ads. He has a certain way of running ads. So it's like, like I said, you have to let that go, and providing them the opportunity to kind of experiment as well and make that okay. And another thing is, if he fails or he makes mistakes or something, then also accept that, and not bash him for it, or make him feel bad about it. Because I always told him like, this is part of the experience. If you make a mistake, it's cool, just let me know, and we'll like diagnose it together, and we'll solve it together, and it's part of learning. And I think he really appreciated that. So giving him that freedom to really excel, develop. Yeah, and I think every person is different, but he was definitely like that, and I'm like that as well. You throw me in the deep end, I'll figure it out somehow. Some people need more guidance, some people need less guidance, so it's also like a judgment call there, kind of a gut feeling as well, like how much responsibility can this person take. But he definitely took all the responsibility he could, and he was also pushing me to give him more and more responsibility as well. He's like, oh, I want to like jump on calls with clients, like I want to do this, I want to do that, and I would let him do it. And it was nice to see him grow like that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, well, I feel like the hiring process is such a neglected part, because this person can literally like, I mean, they're not gonna make or break your business, but it's gonna be, if you hire the right person, it's gonna be an incredible addition. So that's kind of the transition from freelancing to the agency model, right? Now, when you started mainly running ads for, Facebook ads for these e-com clients, you soon realized that you had to take a bit more control over the e-com funnel, right? And that's, again, another thing that I preach a lot is like, it's not just about, cool ads, right? Like you want to make sure that the creative is on point. You want to make sure that, email marketing is a thing, conversion rate optimization, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I know you went really heavy on this, right? Because we were talking about like the agency, the e-com incubator model, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the next transition you made, right? From being a more Facebook ads heavy focused e-com agency to then be more of a broad e-com agency that looked at the whole e-com funnel. My question is, what are some of the elements, right, of that e-com funnel that you first looked at and you were like, I need to get involved in that because that's going to make my clients a lot of money and it's going to make me a lot more money?
Yeah, so number one thing was we were running ads, simply just running creative that the client had. Noticing that was a big bottleneck because honestly, at some point, first of all, clients a lot of the time don't have any idea of like what converts on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So some do, some are really great, and if they're really good at creating creative themselves, like let them create creative themselves. But some have no clue as to how to grab the attention.
Most wouldn't. Most don't, right? You would say, or
I would say most don't. No. Yeah, like 20% no, probably, in my experience. But then they really know, so, and 80% have no clue, like what converts. So that was the first thing we identified was, okay, creative, we need to take control of this, because if we don't, like the ad account is going to blow up. Its performance is going to dip like crazy. Like we need to start developing our creative. So those are the number one thing. And we started like taking their content, re-editing it, getting graphic design work done, etc. So that was the number one thing, was the creative package.
Did you charge them on top for that, or was that like included as part of your paid ad service?
So the first client was actually, we ran their ads first, and then we introduced them to a creative package. So it was kind of like an extra creative package on top of the original.
Yeah.
And then the second client, it was like almost a given. Actually, no, I think the second client after that, we actually did another creative package, and the third one, it was just included.
Okay.
Because at that point, it's like, it's a given. Like we just need to do creatives. So we just increased the price a little bit as well, to accommodate for that.
So the first one you cross sold them to that package, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm a really big advocate of, the fact that like you can sell them onto other services once you're getting them really good results. What do you think is like the best timing to introduce other services?
Well, that's a really good question. I think it's very dependent on the client, but they first need to see that you're getting some sort of result, right? And you need to build their trust, build some rapport with them. And that will usually take 1 or 2 months before you start getting some actual results for the client, and they start seeing that you're a trustworthy partner. And then I think at that point they'll basically trust you to upsell them, because it's very easy to sell to someone that's already bought from you, right, and has your trust and knows that you're legit. I think with this client it took us like a month, because it was a very obvious thing, like we need to do this, and they were like, okay, it's a no-brainer. So let's just do it. And then there was another client where we literally had like a whole year. This was like the first client I had. It was like, I think around 8 months to a year we already worked together, and then we upsold them on a creative package only then.
Okay.
But they were also like very, it was a no-brainer for them as well.
Yeah. Especially because they already know how you work, right? And that's, again, one of the things I'm really big on. It's like the hardest thing of a sale is like building that trust, right? And obviously showing the process, the results and all that stuff, but like they already know how you work. Like they've seen the results. So honestly, the easiest sale you will make as an agency owner.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've never sold like CRO or email marketing. I
Mm.
never got to that point, but I'm pretty sure that that's pretty much a no-brainer as well
Mm.
for a client, especially if they don't have that already or they're not working with an agency or something like that.
Mm. You talked about building rapport, right? And one of the things we talked about in the mentorship is that it's not just about the result side of things, right? But it's about communication and reporting, and oftentimes like that is like 50% of the equation, right? Or even more, right? Sometimes. What are some of the kind of like the mindsets that you have around client experience and taking care of the clients? Because you have a pretty good retention rate. So what are some of the things that you've cultivated during your journey, maybe systems that have helped you keep the clients for a while?
Yeah, so it's a really, really good question because this is probably the one thing that is my biggest pain point as well.
Mm.
It's like, first of all, building the trust with the client, building rapport with the client. Um, yeah, I would say expectation setting is so key, because if you set the
Mm.
right expectations from day one, then those expectations are set and they know kind of how the process works, etc. But once you start changing expectations here and there, you kind of start losing that trust. You tell them, you promise them maybe some certain result, like those things. If you promise them a certain result and you don't get the result, they're going to leave you the next day. it's
Mm.
it's almost inevitable. So that's one thing I've learned, is like you have to be very, very, very clear in your expectations, and they
Yeah.
need to know how you work, how you operate, that this is a long-term play. Instill those mindsets onto them as well. um, but it's still one of the hardest things to do, because you're dealing with people. People are emotional. They're not going to be very rational about the whole process, so you also need to reassure them, jump
Yeah.
on calls, give them every update, a monthly, weekly update with Loom, for example, every Monday, another update on Thursday. Keep them in the loop, keep them educated about the process.
Mm.
So I think that's also very important. Like if you educate them about the
Education. Yeah.
process, yeah. So a lot of clients, they don't understand what's going on. They're just like,
Mm.
get me results. That's their
Yeah.
mindset. Give me the result.
Yeah.
But then you have to educate them that that's not how it works. It's first of all, it's a partnership. You're
Yeah.
working together. You're not working for them.
That's massive, dude.
Uh, yeah,
Especially in the e-com space.
it is.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many clients that kind of will outsource their problems to an agency, and I think those are clients to be wary of. That they have a certain problem, like, oh, we can't get a certain amount of sales, we'll just outsource the problem to an agency so that we do get those amount of sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very dangerous mindset to have. It's
Yeah.
more like, hey, an agency is more of like adding more fuel to the fire, right? Taking that expertise, but it's also a mutual partnership at the same time. Like, they need to carry their weight in terms of providing you with the assets you need, providing you with the information you need. Back and forth. It's a back and forth communication
For sure.
and workflow.
In terms of kind of shifting gears a bit, right? On the lifestyle front, because I always want to talk about obviously the tangible strategies, all that stuff, but also on the lifestyle front, right? Because I mean, you're a pretty big advocate of like, not succumbing to the toxic work culture of like the agency space, which is works 6 to 8 hours a day, banging out hundreds of cold emails, cold calls, and doing all this shit, right? That doesn't actually get many results. But being smart and building automations and all that stuff, which is again something that we spoke about during the mentorship. What is like as a founder or entrepreneur, what is your ideal lifestyle, or what did that change as you transitioned? Because I also remember us talking about like how we love the game, right? Like we just love doing the stuff that we do, and like we don't mind working on it. But have you found like found the sweet spot where you strike the balance between work and lifestyle and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think I definitely did. I found myself, like, even compared to a year ago, just waking up way more just excited to work, happy to work. And it comes down to removing some of that pressure I put on myself. um, which also comes down to like how many hours you work per day. Like you could really burn yourself out very easily, you know.
Mm.
Clients are always going to message you all the time, you know. And
Mm.
so it's super stressful, and they're always going to want something. So what I've implemented was Saturdays I don't do any work. I don't touch it. I just fully relax,
Yeah.
so that I get that energy and that passion back again to start crushing it on Sunday or Monday again. And Sunday I'll usually work like half a day or 3/4 of the day. And you know, Friday evening to Saturday, I'm gonna be fully relaxed. And that was honestly the key thing here, because I used to work 7 days a week, and honestly, like doing that a couple times in a row, you get a complete burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so that was a big thing, and then being okay with that, you know, that was also another thing, because like sometimes you feel guilty for not working. So kind
Mm.
of taught myself it's okay, don't feel guilty, like this is actually going to help you grow, if anything, because you're
For
going to
sure.
come back the next day more hungry rather than just more burnt out. And like you're going to be waking up on Monday thinking, oh man, like I have to do all this work, instead of like I'm ready to crush the day, I'm rejuvenated, re-energized, etc.
Yeah. No, that's massive. I feel like, I mean, the feeling guilty is I feel like something that 85% of entrepreneurs probably feel. Like when you take a break, like you feel guilty of taking that break, and it's no bueno. It's pretty unhealthy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing was like going to Dubai. You were there as well at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah. We
um,
should have met up, man. We should have had a
yeah,
plan
like
and stuff, but we couldn't make it happen.
we were very close, I think, to meeting up at
Yeah.
that point. Um, but that was a game changer as well, because this whole thing, you know, every day is very mundane, day in, day out. And yeah, luckily, you know, we're both fortunate enough to be flexible in terms of where we can work and how we can work and at what
Mhm.
times we can work. And yeah, it's like a real privilege to be able to just go somewhere and go on vacation, especially during these times.
Mhm.
Um, and that honestly, like I came back from that vacation so re-energized, so just so ready to go, you know.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of lifestyle, you got to take those breaks. You really do.
Mhm.
And this way of working, you know, working remotely as well, it just allows you to do all these things.
Mhm. Do you have like a set time for those vacations, or no?
Like per year, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. Or you just like spontaneous?
Usually spontaneous, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I should probably set some sort of like time limit or something, but
No, I'm the same, man. It's kind of like when you feel it, you know, like, oh, I feel like I'm hitting a creative roadblock or something like that, or I just don't feel the fire as much anymore. Probably a good time to like take some time off.
yeah. And you know, when I do go on those vacations, I'll still work a little bit. Will still work at 1 to 2 hours a day, but it's like
Mhm.
for me that feels almost like I'm not doing work. So and then maybe on the weekend I'll just take the whole weekend off
Mhm.
during that vacation. But it's exactly like you said. Like I don't believe in being very strict and having like all these strict rules either.
Yeah.
Maybe it would help to have some sort of guideline, like.
Yeah.
But honestly, in the future, I see myself just like traveling to, say, to Portugal for like 2 months, just living there and work.
You have to go to Comporta, man. It's
Where is
incredible.
this?
In Portugal. I was just there. Yeah, I mean, there's a place that, because you have a girlfriend, right? Yeah, you guys would love it. It's just incredibly relaxing, very few people, and just scenery is beautiful.
What's it called? Comporta?
Yeah, yeah. I'll send it. I'll send it after the uh, the call.
Sounds good.
I like what you said there. That you don't have like a lot of structures. I mean, I'm sure you're a very systematic, like analytical guy. I know that, right? And I think in your business, you know, you do, right? Especially when that was a massive focus of mentorship. But I feel like in your personal life, you kind of just flow a bit more, right? Are there any specific like routines, habits that you have in place, or it's just kind of like you get to work and you just do the work and you just hang out when it's time to hang out with friends and all that stuff?
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's I see it like as a balance, right? So like flowing a bit more is actually something that I actively work on as well. It's like
Mm.
I see it as sometimes one of my weaknesses, you know? So I'm like, okay, I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
flow a bit more, like let things go a little bit more, not
yeah,
be too rigorous all the time. But yeah, when I'm on a work day, I'm very, very structured, you know.
yeah, yeah.
To the point of like, you know, I'll wake up at exactly the same time. I'll do my meditation, I'll clean the house, listen to audiobooks. I have like my little morning routine, and then I'll have like my 2 to 3 hour work block in the morning, and then I'll have like my keto lunch, like you know, very specific. I'll have my workout at 6, and then you know my work
Nice.
block in between. So that all that is very structured. But then outside, when it comes to like leisure time, like I have no structure whatsoever.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I leave that completely open to whatever. And sometimes I'll just throw around the whole routine and completely like
Yeah,
mess things up. And that's also kind of
yeah,
nice not to have that exact same routine every day.
yeah, yeah, man. I think like one of the things that I found, and yeah, flowing is definitely one of the things that like I think all entrepreneurs should work on a bit more, because you know there's a lot of thoughts that are ingrained in our heads from like podcasts and audiobooks, like you have to have like this type of routine and do this, this, and this, and this, right? And then when you actually like break free from that, and you start trying things in your morning routine that actually come more naturally to you, that's I think when you have like a big breakthrough when it comes to habits and routines, right? Where the stuff that you do actually energizes you, it doesn't drain you, right? Have you ever felt like what, you know, some of the routines that you like, I don't know, you added to your life, you know, you're done with it and you're like, fuck, you know, it's almost like I've done a full day's of work, or you think you've already done a lot or accomplished a lot, where I think like routines should just come naturally, the things that actually just naturally energize you.
Yeah, I've definitely had moments where the routine would be like way too burdensome. Like it just, you know, feel like work, you know. I feel like before I
Mm.
even got back down to my desk, like I literally like was already completely burnt out
Yeah, yeah,
because I'm like doing all these like step by step things.
yeah.
I remember I used to like read for an hour, and then I would go to the gym for an hour, and then by the time I'm like at my desk, it's already like 12 a.m. or like 1 p.m. and I'm
Yeah.
just starting work, you know, and I'm already stressed out because I've spent all this time that I could be doing work, you know, doing doing all these things. So I mean the way I got around with that was just like switching it up. So like I'll go to the gym in the evening now, which is usually
Mm.
the time I'm not productive. So I'll just like switch it in a way where it's more optimized for
Mm.
that specific time.
Okay.
Um, Another thing I did something new. I used to read physical hard copy books, but now what I do is I listen to audiobooks and just clean the house. And then by like cleaning the house, you get that fulfillment. And before you even start work, your house is like completely clean. So your mind's clean and you're ready to go. And you've
Mm.
already learned something from listening to audiobooks. So kind of incorporating those things to be extra
Mm.
productive. So you're like
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
two things at once. But
yeah.
yeah.
Good stuff. And to wrap things up, I want to hear what. Well, you don't have to get too specific, I know, because maybe you're trying to keep things secretive. And by the way, I completely respect that. Like, you know, the fact that not every entrepreneur needs to be like on social media, speaking their you know, thoughts and all that stuff. But what are you excited for going forward? What is kind of the plan, the vision? Are you like, when do you think you're going to transition fully from the ecom agency that has given you so much to purely the ecom brand that you're building? Do you think you're going to have the ecom agency teaching you all a lot of stuff, and obviously bringing the cash flow while you have the ecom brand? Do you see that as a possibility? Like, what are your thoughts going into this new stage and this new transition of an agency owner?
To be honest, I don't know. Um, what I do know is that I'll definitely keep doing the whole agency spiel for a while, up until you know this ecom business. Like I think it's just at a point where it will take up too much of my time, running the ecom business, and at that point I'll have to make that decision. But I don't know how long that's going to take. It also depends on how quickly everything grows, if it blows
Mm.
up or doesn't blow up, you know. Um,
Mm.
but either way, it's nice to know that I always have that backup,
Mm.
cash flow business, and you
Yeah.
know I can funnel that money back into the e-commerce brand as well.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I'm just really excited to see where this is headed. it's a big project, and it could go very fast or it could go very slow. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Because do you have any like goals in mind? It doesn't have to be financial, but do you guys have like any like benchmarks or anything that you're looking at doing or
Yeah, I mean,
achieving with
we're
this?
hoping to be an 8-figure brand within 3 years. That's the goal.
Okay.
We're hoping to, our first round of stock we're going to order. We'll probably be releasing it in September. So we're hoping to just sell that out as soon as possible, hopefully within a month.
Okay.
So those are two primary targets. Yeah, and for the rest, we're open to exiting the company at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and then just building another brand from there. Because I think like with e-commerce, building e-commerce brand, like the cash flow part is one thing, but where real e-commerce business owners make the money is when they exit the brand and they get
sure.
the lump sum of cash.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something to consider. But how about you, man? How about your e-com business? 100 million?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. I think we're gonna be able to achieve. I'm obviously look. One of the things about me is like I don't just fixate on the money side of things. Like I just want to build a really cool brand, and the competitive entrepreneur in me it just wants to be like the biggest brand in my space, right? So it's not so much about like the money or not, because I think when you obsess over the money, like you lose, right? Like honestly, I gave it that title because you know how YouTube works, right? Like the series, but it's not so much. Obviously, I think we can definitely hit that. And but I'm not going into it like I don't need the ecom brand money, to like sustain me, and that's one of the edges that I think like even you do, you have as well, right? The fact that like you have the cash flow from the ecom agency, right? You have all the skills that you've acquired from the ecom agency as well, but also the cash flow and the peace of mind and the money that you can reinvest into this brand. And so I'm not like I don't really need this to work. I know it's gonna work because we're putting I'm putting all my efforts into it, but I think that's where I'll be able to take it, and probably exit out at some point. But I do think that it's going to be like a long. It's definitely a long term thinking, a long term project for me, right? It's not like I'm just trying to build something and then just sell it as soon as possible. It's like I wanna build something that like has true longevity and that can hopefully even when I'm gone like still be a massive thing. So that's kind of the mindset that I'm going into it. Even though it's my fault. Look, you know how the entrepreneurship journey works. Like you think this at the start and then everything just changes, right? And then like you open your eyes to other possibilities. But I think I will still run my ecom agency for a very long time, like building that into like the biggest ecom incubator in the world. But I do want to have this false ecom brand be like a big thing that I do for many years.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally resonate with that as well. With not the financial goals that matter the most, because you have the cash flow from your other business. So I think for us as well, it's like the focus is really lies on like really building something and building like the best product out there, rather than like actually thinking about, okay, how can you get the most sales possible? How can you get the
100%.
most cash flow possible? It's like
100%.
don't really care about that at this stage,
Yeah.
at all. So yeah.
Dude, like even with my like I'm talking to my team, and like obviously they I need to feed the team, right, and all that stuff, but I don't give a shit if I don't make any money in the first batch. Like I know I'm gonna, but because obviously we're looking at profit margins, and but purely for the reason of like being able to spend more on the ads, being able to like just have a more healthier like funnel essentially. But like if I don't make any money in like the first batch or like the second batch or like the whole year, I don't, like personally, right, as personal income, I really don't care. Because again, I'm thinking about the long term, and I'm thinking about like it's just fun for me, like to build cool shit, and also like the way I think as well is like I wanna, because I talk about this a lot, the fact that like with e-com agency model, just I mean you're a great example of this. Like you experience all the stages, the service-based business, then the kind of the more holistic, e-com incubator, then like building your own e-com brands. And I want I want to share with people what I'm learning throughout that whole process, so that others can pretty much like replicate it within other like industries and all that stuff. And I think it's just such a good model, because like, you know, we've gotten the cash flow, we've gotten the skills, we've gotten like the contacts even, right? You know, for example, your media buyer, from that previous phase, now you're ready to crush it in a complete different field.
Spot on, man. Absolutely. And they're all so complementary, right? So it's like all those years of building something, you use the same skills to build something new as well. And I think that's really the investment you're making. It's you're just, all you're doing is just translating those skills onto another kind of business model, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so powerful.
It's so powerful, man. That's why I'm super passionate about it, because like I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like it's not just, if you commit to something, if you commit time and energy into something, you'd want that thing to like, you know, have returns over the years, right? It's not just money that you want to, you know, you want money to have returns over the years, right? And grow exponentially. Like you want yourself to be able to grow over the years. That's what, when I see like other business models, is like, yeah, cool, you can make a few bucks here and there in the short term, but like, you know, how is that going to serve you later down the line? Like life is a journey, life is a game, right? And so if you can like, you know, use all the time and energy that you're going to put anyways into any side hustle or any business, like you might as well have a long-term plan in mind. It doesn't have to be starting an e-com brand, but at least like you garner skills that are going to be applicable for anything. I mean, growing anything on brand, growing anything online is such a valuable asset, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could just completely waste a lot of time like trying to focus on just making cash, right? Like generating cash flow with something you're not interested in at all. But I think with the agency, with freelancing, with building e-com brand, they're all, the skill sets are pretty much the same, and it's all in the same kind of realm of marketing. You're always learning new marketing skills. You're seeing businesses from a different angle. Yeah, it's all complementary.
Yeah. I think that's why you also had you had success, right? Because like you focus on the game and you focus on the process, and obviously you wanted the money, right? The money came, but like you were just, you know, trying to be the best that you could be every single like day, every single week. And I think when you just focus on that, like it just becomes, and you have the right roadmap, it just becomes pretty effortless.
Definitely, yeah. As soon as you're not dependent on like money to, you know, like meet your basic needs, like pay for your rent and your food, like at that point it's like, it's just fun to build things, and it doesn't really matter, like, you know, am I profitable within my first year or not, because you're just constantly building something. And it was with the agency as well, you know, it's like after your first client, it's like, okay, got my first client, you know, they pay all the bills, it's all good. Now I can just focus on actually building something and moving this thing forward.
And those are dangers. Those are dangerous entrepreneurs. No, those are dangerous entrepreneurs, you know, like the ones that are not outcome dependent, because like they don't need much, right? It's just like they're focused on creating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess you could become less dangerous if you start spending all that money you're earning on like very fancy holidays and like buying a Lambo or something, or like you rent out this place for, you know, crazy amount of money, because then you're just increasing your expenses, right? And then you're putting more pressure on yourself to have to perform. But if you keep those expenses low and for the rest you don't really care about the outcome, I think that's a really good spot to be in. Yeah.
Look, we might be going head to head with the ecom brand. You never know. It would be cool though. It would be really cool. Imagine two titans in the supplement space over the next 5 years, and you used to be a mentee of mine, and you went through like the exact same process. That's cool, man. That's cool. That's always good. Good to see as a mentor. But that's a really good way to wrap it up, I think. Any final comments? Any final things that you want to say to people watching as well?
I say focus on one thing, you know, like keep your focus, you know, whether it's one industry or one niche or something like this, just maintain that focus. And with the right amount of resilience and the right amount of work, you're going to make it happen. And I know it sounds cliche, but it is very true. It's if you want it bad enough, if your why is strong enough, like why are you doing this? If that's strong enough, you're going to make it happen no matter what. I think you don't need to be a neuroscientist to be doing this kind of stuff. You know, it's all about just getting the reps in, becoming stronger and stronger as you learn, as you fail. And yeah, I would say that's the main thing, maintaining the focus.
All right, man. Then that's that. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. And yeah, obviously we'll keep in touch. You gotta let me know if you're gonna make that the next 10K club meetup over Zoom. I think that'll be fun. But yeah, man, I want to acknowledge you for putting the work, for having that resilience, and for constantly like trying to level up, and going through the phases and just staying true and staying focused on the process. So yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. And when are you gonna release your brand? When is it coming out? Do you know?
Not exact. I mean, we do have a few dates in mind, but and we're planning towards those dates. We're doing everything towards those dates, but things usually get delayed. So I'm not like, I don't have a specific date in mind just yet.
Cool, man. Maybe we'll release on the same day.
Dude, that would be fun. That would be fun. But yeah, man, that's that, and we'll be speaking. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man. Big hug. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Guys, so that is that for the interview with Nick. Definitely a very interesting chat, and I'm very looking forward to seeing how that ecom brand at launch turns out. Now, if you're looking to get results like Nick, and you also want to build a business that has true longevity, that adds real value to real people, and that most importantly gives you the transferable skills so that you can go ahead and start other businesses down the line, so that it's not just a one-trick pony, right? You're building an ecom agency, right, that can provide a lot of cash flow, that can get you past the 10K a month mark in record-breaking time, but that can also enable you and give you the transferable skills so that you can open up other online businesses of your own. Go ahead and check out the link in the description. That is a link to my mentorship application. You can book in a time that works with my team and myself, and we can jump on a call to see if you'd be a good fit. So that is that for this interview. Hope you took some nuggets away from it. And with that being said, hope everything's going well in your journey, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.